Hello, everybody. Today I'd like to start off elucidating the golden light that I talk about sometime at a request for that. So this is talked about, this is no great secret in the modern era. This is talked about a lot in especially monastic religions. That's to say, religions focused on spirituality instead of synchronicity between spirit and flesh. The golden light is not necessarily a light and not necessarily golden, but it's an apt descriptor because, okay, here's a good way of grounding a start of the realization of it. The Celtic people are self-described, as a solar race. They are also the first people in recorded history to guess that consciousness is stored in the mind, in the brain, in the head, as opposed to the center of our emotions, which is the solar plexus. You see. So this is a deep, deep conceptualization of an inner sun. Or to attune your soul to that of a sun, or to the sun. It used to be the seat of the Sky Father in the Indo-European diasporic religions, whether it's Zeus, Deus, or Tyrannus, or Jupiter. There is a variety of names for the exact same concept, or Tengri, which is the Sky Father. And the Sky Father isn't just a father, but a progenitor of life, point blank period. And that is very oftentimes projected onto the sun, whereas the feminine is projected onto the moon, something that is responsible for the tides with which life is necessitated and a reflection of the light of the sun. And so this golden light is described in the ancient people as a sun behind them. And you may have heard bad descriptions of things like the black sun, and that is a translation of a translation of a translation, a garbled and mangled telephone game interpretation of the exact concept that I'm talking about. But this concept is also interpreted as a halo, or as the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is often depicted as fire descending from the heavens. That's the fire. And naturally, the halo is also a conceptualization of that inner light, of the sainthood, of the attunement. You see saints always depicted in art as having that golden light behind them. It's the exact same concept that our ancestors 20,000 years ago were talking about when they were describing themselves as a race of solar creatures, the creatures that could make it into the previously far colder Eurasian steppe and tame the animals there and bring them safely over into an even colder Europe that was where ice was receding. You had to be very attuned and very strong in order to do that. And the concept of a solar race, quote unquote, which is exactly where, the neo-Nazis and the Nazis themselves got the idea. And also, naturally, the swastika is an inverted sun symbol, and the sun symbol is all over the place from Africa to Far East, all over the place. What the Nazis were really tapping into is the unified culture of the collective unconscious, combined with the Indo-European diaspora, combined with trade, combined with Christianity. They were trying to fabricate claims through the burgeoning knowledge of our ancestry at the time. And I think that's the the gold, the obsession with gold, like the Celtic people, the Celtic people, the Celts wore torques, and it would reflect gold up on their countenance. And so that was what they would be rewarded with if they could attune that inner sun and achieve that inner power. And that's why they're regarded as mighty warriors, great traders, and people who built Europe out of Neolithic stone. And, that's just a little hint. You can study this for a very, very long time. But I thought I'd elucidate on what that is. And when I meditated for long periods of time while simultaneously exercising very, very hard and caring for my increasingly sick and decrepit dog in ways that I physically shouldn't have been able to do because I was incurring injuries I was incurring a hernial tear from constantly picking her up and constantly helping her out and helping her to simulate walking as if I was her crutch, kind of like a, the sort of things that crippled dogs have to saddle themselves up to. I was a human version of that. And I would pick up my dog repeatedly, and every single time it would hurt very much. I had a tear in my diaphragm down in my crotch area from an old injury incurred when I was working construction. And I also have one right here. And it hurts a lot. But through the mental dedication, I managed to stay with it. And I managed to allow my dog to have a natural, comfortable, and seemingly dignified compared to what a majority, and I hate to say this because like a lot of people don't have a choice. I had the choice. It was COVID, it was lockdowns, I even quit my 3-person construction job so that I could work with my dog before that, and then COVID hit, and then she got worse and worse, so I didn't have much else to do. Florida was locked down in 2020, after Bernie dropped out, of course. And it was that golden light that I spent inside of myself that allowed me to do that and do that and do that. But when Bernie dropped out, that is a big thing. I think you need a leader for this whole solar race thing. When Bernie dropped out, it screwed me, and I felt it dimming and dimming and dimming and dimming. And as I said, I started to slow down over a period of time, and I incurred more and more injuries. And so by the end of my dog's death, I was in blackness and darkness. 2.5 months I laid in my bed in darkness and cried, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would moan after remembering her. But the Kiwi Farms actually saved me. I went on there and I found a tremendous amount of love, and I found a tremendous amount of camaraderie, and they essentially helped nurse me back to health. And that's one of the reasons why I, unlike just a random tourist, I was very dedicated to trying to help. And maybe I still can. Maybe what I'm saying and doing can still manage to help. So anyways, that's the introit to the golden sun inside. I would encourage anybody to look more into that because it's very important and very powerful. So, Trump dropped bombs on a majority of empty areas. He dropped the mother of all bombs, like, in the middle of the desert where nobody was. He dropped a ton of Tomahawk missiles just in the ocean, just in the sea. It must suck to be a fish on that day, but seriously, it's way better than what Biden has been doing, which is, like, deliberately carpet bombing homes where people live back to the Stone Age and going, "It was a terrorist in there. There was a terrorist in there." And it's literally like you see tons of children's corpses and you wonder who the actual terrorist is, I mean, I don't. I know. I hope Pete Buttigieg never has a job again. I hope he is out of a job like all those Pentagon freaks that had latched themselves to the horse of the Afghanistan opium trade. And I hope what he did to East Palestine is a mark on his record for all time. Because it is, but, I hope the fact that DeSantis not getting in, Kamala Harris, Waltz, or Biden not getting in, permanently makes Pete Buttigieg into the ultimate loser. And he never gets around politics ever again. That's my hope. Remember what happened to East Palestine? A lot of the chemicals that were dumped in that were the processing byproducts of vinyl and PVC. And I hate the vinyl fencing craze that has taken off recently. The only reason why it's taken off recently is so the police can drive a Bearcat through it at any time. That's the reason why it's pushed in HOAs. But it is so crap, and it is so like anti-logical in Florida, having these flimsy little pieces of ultra sharp, thin and easy to catch wind slivers of vinyl flying everywhere. It's just a nightmare waiting to happen, and of course it's being necessitated by the same evil shitheads that have been ruining everything else. So it is what it is, you know. It's not just the establishment that is screwing us over. It's also our thought leaders like Andrew Tate and Tim Pool and Hassan Piker. Fuck. Pim Tool's beanie wouldn't even fit on Sam Hyde's dome because his brain is so big. Literally, like, Tim Pool's cranial capacity is probably like hundreds of cc's lower than Sam Hyde's. And, like, you see this a lot with people who take a variety of supplements or Ozempic, or they're just, you know, on amphetamines because they used to be very fat and they got embarrassed on live TV, and then they... if Pim Tool tried to put on one of Sam Hyde's beanies, it would go all the way down like this, like he was one of those Fat Albert characters. Anyways, school never ended, you know. School never ended. And when I went to jail, I was surprised at how similar it was to school. And I figured that out before I even left jail. It's institutionalization. You institutionalize people. You make them... The only thing that they can really think about is the task in front of them and nothing else, because they're bombarded by heavy, extremely bright fluorescent lights, conditioned air, and noise and chaos constantly. They're just bombarded by it. It's the absolute opposite of a monastery or a Zen dojo. Opposite. And, you know, as I've gone over, the Masonic Prussians are the ones who created the public school system so that they could create 1 million soldiers a year. That's the reason. And it didn't do them a damn bit of good at the end of the day. So keep that in mind, you know. The reason why we lock so many people up isn't just for the little bit of scratch that gets traded in the meanwhile. That's just to pay the workers so that they can keep the place running. The long-term reasoning behind it, and the reason why we put up with so much loss of productivity, is because it's made up in the attachment of people to gangs, to drug addictions, to low investment behaviors. Literally, you put somebody in jail, you put them around more gangs, you give them more opportunity to be a criminal than ever before. And that's not to say that, like, every gangster is a bad person. That's absolutely 100% not true. Usually, like, the tough choices have to be made up top, and that's the left hand is obscured, and the right hand is the main thing offered to people on the bottom, you know? But if a call comes down, it can happen anytime and anywhere, and it doesn't even matter what the objections are because they have to do it, and that's not good. You do not want to give up your agency and become an automaton like the institutionalization services want you to do. Not the naturalization services, the institutionalization services. And you can be anti-illegal immigrant without cucking to ICE. Like, legitimately, anybody who's just like, yeah, ICE, yeah, get those immigrants out of there. Those people are probably the dumbest people you know, because they are too stupid to recognize that ICE is not deporting people. It is keeping people in concentration camps. That's why they keep building more and more concentration camps. That's why the immigration problem isn't being fixed. That's why the immigration problem is worse than it's ever been since the establishment of ICE. It's a terrible, terrible organization, and the evil that they have to do strains the good people out of it. because from them, they're worse than any gang. From the top down, they have to do cruelty, and sometimes abject cruelty just happens because some people are given a little bit extra leeway, and then you have sexual assault, and then you have, torture and abject cruelty, like gassing, like I told about during the COVID, and they were spraying people with COVID spray, whatever the hell that means, until they were bleeding from every orifice. That's what was happening in these gulags. That's not cool. You can be anti-illegal immigration without cucking to ICE. Please remember that. Speaking about modern shit, invading Canada, I'm sorry, is batshit. It's batshit. It's not going to happen. It's legitimately not going to happen. It's the equivalent of Napoleon invading France in the winter. Now, as I said before on the podcast, you can trade for Alberta. They really want to come into the United States as a 51st state, and you can get like 20% of Canada's oil through Alberta. But unfortunately, what some of the freaks are pushing, who are pushing Trump to do this, you are who you put yourself around, and he's put himself around a lot of Zionists recently. They want the wood. They want the soft timber. They want to gobble that up. They want to gobble up to what's little is left of our planet's lungs, of the places where the birds live. And it just goes, there's a curse that came out of the Middle East. I'm not sure if it was unearthed under Babylon or what, but look at the Middle East, look at the deserts, look at the destruction. Would you want to live there? Do you want to turn your backyard into that? No. Now, DJ TJ, Donald Trump Jr., he's got his thumb on the pulse a lot more, it seems. And it's crazy because I was a big critic of his back in 2017 because I don't like the fact that his hunting trips involve a helicopter. And, long story short, that's bullshit. But he does have his thumb on the pulse today. And I appreciate that because he seems to genuinely know that Greenland is the option. Now, invading Mexico, invading Canada because we're going to copy Israel and it's easy, that's bullshit. That's nonsense. Now, the old Goldwaterite retake the Panama Canal move, totally feasible. Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, totally feasible because of our 50-year destabilization of their countries, and we could literally, save the remaining people in there by liberating them from the cartels. And I'm not even sure if what's happening in Honduras is the cartels. I think that's something even more aberrant than La Cartela. So just to let you know, that's a total possibility. Nicaragua, Honduras, Panama, Guatemala, total possibility. Canada, batshit crazy. Batshit crazy. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico, not viable, not necessary. Doesn't even sound good as the Gulf of America. That's way too many syllables. Gulf of Mexico is better. It kind of rolls off the tongue better too. So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep calling it the Gulf of Mexico. So, as I was saying, Trump has been around a lot of Zionists recently and has been warping his brain into thinking he can just invade his neighbors without consequence. Because the Ottoman Empire completely and utterly destroyed the Middle East, and yes, you can invade your neighbors without consequence in the destroyed remnants of the Ottoman Empire, because they had already destroyed it hundreds of years prior. They didn't care what religion you were, what color you were, what language you spoke. You were going to serve the capital of Istanbul. Bullshit. Thanks, Venice. Really, because ultimately it's Venice's fault. There was a Venetian engineer that sold Mehmet Ozvangulu II the cannons, and also gave somebody, some sellout guard, gave them the coordinates for a broken up wall, and that allowed Constantinople to fall very easily. Venice shares a large portion of responsibility for that because they could have sold it to their Christian allies instead. Instead, they sold it to the highest bidder. Evil shit. As I said, you are who you put yourself around. Men are like their friends. Women, more complicated, higher emotional IQ, still, they imprint because they feel deeper and they imprint easier, and so they have to cut off quicker, and they have to be very, more critical than men when it comes to emotions. They're like their fathers or their boyfriends or their spouses. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that a lot of modern women don't get along very well with each other, because so many of the personalities that they're imbibing from this rheumatic and broken to million pieces culture are clashing all the time, clashing, on top of the, free-for-all attitude of the culture. But that is the ultimate refutation against misogyny. I think that's the right word, against hating women. You gotta pity women who have been up there, been abused by their fathers, abused by their spouses, abused by their, shitty boyfriends who are 10, 15 years older than them. And now they are, messed up in the head. They can be easily fixed. They can be, that's why I got guys to, use a joke, because I can fix her. Because, legitimately, you can. You can legitimately. I have played Captain Save-A-Ho many, many times. And in order to do that correctly, all you got to do is not focus on yourself. You just got to focus on the long-term success and well-being of the woman that you like. If you actually love a woman, and, she might not, especially after you do this for her and you act like a father, in a way, or a therapist in a way, she's not going to view like the bad boy that negs her and, makes her feel more things, because you're going to be dictating the logic, not the emotions, you see. But be willing to do that, Be willing to do that, and don't think that men and women are some drastically separated thing. We're dependent. We're codependent on each other, and we'll always be codependent on each other, no matter what science says. No matter what CE science says, this lying science in the last 40 to 60 years, it literally just lies constantly, and literally everybody in the entirety of all societies knows that our modern scientists lie out of their teeth constantly, saying that they, and the idea that there's just going to be a bunch of Nick Fuentes out there, a bunch of test tube babies. Nah, it's not. No. That so that they can do what? Order off Grubhub? Lead an army of cat boys? Are you fucking serious? No, that's not happening. How racism works is that it lies about the men and then fetishizes the women. You can actually see this a lot in the Germanic and Italic propaganda against Celtic women, that they're fiery and feisty and they need, they're violent and stuff like that, but the men are just absolute abject idiots. That's the propaganda that the Germans fed so that they could take their women. And you know what? A strawberry blonde, in my opinion, with slightly curly hair and blue-green eyes, it's a little bit more, I know for a fact that's more beautiful. If she's a little bit taller too, a little bit more beautiful than this, Freya chick with, the platinum blonde hair and the, steel blue eyes, and she's short and her forehead's a mile long. That's why they wanted to, and of course I love Germanic women, but it's just the mix. The mix is where it's at. I know this for a fact. I can attest to this. Right hand of God. The mix is where it's at. Diversity is our strength. That's where the strength of America comes from. Legitimately. That's what we chose. We didn't choose to be just white people. We didn't choose to be just Protestants. We got Catholics and Protestants, and we got crazy ass Mormons. We have a few Muslims, and that's fine. We got our entire country is named off of a variety of places from the world, like we are someplace in Warhammer 40K. So, culture. As I said, there's never been a time where a colonial culture has gone into an area and wiped out the natives without integrating, without breeding through the women and stuff like that. That's the so if you're racist against women, you're historically aberrant and dangerous too. If you're racist towards women, culture is literally, languages are developed, and you see this in the charts. Elevation, humidity. That is ultimately why languages develop. Either they're tonal or they're basal, or in the variety of glottal stops and stuff that save, and the gargling of the words that happens in the Middle East. You all this develops because of the environment, and cultures are exactly the same way. Cultures develop because of the area, and as I said, if you go into an area and you try to replace the culture, it will fail. There will be floods. There will be devastation. There will be fires. It won't work. As simple as that. That's why I say, legitimately, you need to be intelligent. And all intelligent cultures that have managed to go from one place to another have found ways to integrate the knowledge that's there into their overall knowledge. And as an American, there's no reason for us not to do that. We are the pinnacle of that philosophy. It just sucks what happened to the Native Americans because they got such a shit, deal. Like, really, truly. And a lot of people who are really, really intelligent, even if they are, like, racist or whatever, they'll even say, yeah, the Native Americans got really shafted. That was kind of uncool. That was kind of unfair. But then you got these people who are lying about, look at how many bison they killed. And not that they were getting paid for the bison skulls by the Europeans or anything because they were setting up railroads. No. Ignore all that. And make up completely utterly lying stories about, like, cutting off Christians' fingers so they can't do, Holy Sacrament, or scalping, women, like, willy-nilly for no reason, stuff like that. Just make that shit up and, take one little instance and cherry pick it out through the entire of the culture. And that's exactly how you wipe out a culture, and then proceed to let Woodrow Wilson fund the German, wood chipper with our land, and then create the Dust Bowl that kills a lot of Americans too. Good job, college-educated Woodrow Wilson. You're super fucking smart. Cultures are necessary. That's why it works. It's how it works. So keep that in mind. Have whatever preference you want personally. But don't go lying about shit. For real, the less you lie, the better off you'll be internally and externally. But also know when to bridle your mouth. As I said, you have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, but only 1 mouth. And I should internalize that advice as well. It's good advice for anybody. As I said, the frickin' Masons monopolized the insanely rich America with all of its resources, and they monopolized it up by the 20s. And so you had white people, racists, white people dying on the streets. You had, Christians dying on the streets with their children in their arms, freezing to death. Because that's exactly what Masons do. That's their legitimate game plan. And it's the big mystery of how they can sleep at night, other than hacking their brains and, like, lying to themselves about the esoteric, Saturnalian BS that they think that they're extracting, when in reality they're just cheapening their own existences and the existences of their children and the existence of everybody around them, cheapening it. You can literally see this on the charts. It's just getting cheaper and cheaper. Thanks a lot. There are deep historical mysteries out there. Where do the sea people come from? Where do they go? What exactly is the Roma/Gypsy? It's an antiquated term. They're called the Roma. But I've always thought about that, and, like, I think that the Indo-European, culture of wagoneering, because you have the gypsy caravans, the wagoneering and the nomadicism, I think that is ultimately where the Roma come from. They're a remnant of this ancient Indo-European diasporic culture. Now, I don't know anything about their religion that much, but I do know about the evil eye, and the evil eye is super ancient. Super ancient. Speaking of ancient, Rhodesia was named after the Greek, French, Latin crusader state of Rhodes, which is also the island of Rhodes in the southernmost part and the easternmost part of the Aegean Sea, right there by Anatolia. That's what Rhodesia was named after, because there's a bunch of LARPers that made up the Great British mentality. And if you're like a Rhodesia stan, you are a funny character, bro. You are a goofy guy, my man. Also, Pretoria, after the Roman Praetorian Guard. There's a lot of role-playing going on with that. I got way more respect for the Boers. I got way more respect for the Dutch. Although what the Dutch did in Indonesia was nasty, man. Ooh. They found, like, super, super weak populations and just humiliated and exterminated them. And, think about it. What if it was your family? What if that was your home? It is what it is, man. We can only try to learn from that. The last good movie I watched was Joker from 2019. And a lot of people don't like that movie, but I like it because it was a real artistic movie with real directing. I really like that. And It was legitimately. I've only seen like 3 or 4 movies since then, but I don't want to see any of these new movies. It's literally like the last good movie that they thought that the theater was going to be a thing, and then COVID hit, and then no more theater. That's fine. I don't really care much about the theater. We have theater is annoying. You got people crumpling plastic all the time. Talking, cell phones, stuff like that. You can experience stuff a lot more comfortably off the internet if you know where to go. Twitch is bare bones. I got from a technical level, I have respect for Jeff Bezos on a technical level because he is incredibly intelligent. He's not pushing any boundaries. He's not rocking any apple carts. So it's very intelligent to be so high up and be doing all that. But he is also like taking a slow-moving steamroller over all the mom-and-pop businesses, over all small businesses, to the point where the only remaining small businesses are like role-playing, or they're just, using Amazon in one way or another, or exploiting some tiny little niche. It's very sad that, like what I was talking about the other day about the refrigerated trucks taking people's groceries around now after the Grubhub thing took off. It all started with, UPS, Amazon, UPS, FedEx delivering Amazon packages and stuff like that. Although eBay, I wouldn't say it started anything. eBay's a cool little, eBay's like a forum. It's a cool little place where people can actually have a little bit of freedom. And every once in a while, you get an abuser putting a brick in a box and selling it as something, and that's no different from any forum and the people that are around it. I want to speak about this a little bit. I really got to throw this away, but can't throw this on a Christian stream. Check this out. Did you see that signature there? Pissmaster. Now, that's not me. That's one of the most beloved and talented people on the Kiwi farms. And he was always very, very nice to me. And there was one time in a private DM where he had parroted some stuff that unfortunately, he does have a friend that I would take behind the barn, the old Yeller style, and feel absolutely no remorse and lose no sleep over. And he parroted that guy's lies about me, and he's just like, oh, you're a pedophile. And I think he legitimately deleted that afterwards because I couldn't find it when I went back to look for it. But I remember seeing it, and I was just like, my response to it was just like, oh, so your friends lie to you, huh? That sucks. It's as simple as that, man. I wish Pissmaster so much. But Pissmaster, if you hear this, don't stick your dick in crazy, man. Come on, keep it together. Everybody loves you. Like, seriously, keep it together. So, Locals is run by a legally retarded, child-stealing cuck. And you know who that guy is. And I'm never in my entire life going to ever step on Locals because I know exactly, why there's so many federal agents and pedophiles on there from day one. Unlike Kiwi Farms, who are just like, you see it flooding in and then they bar the gates and then they try to, snipe off the chomos off the god towers that the mods sit in. It's not a smart idea to mess with them. That's much, much better than what you see on a lot of other places. YouTube, it's always been YouTube, YouTube's where you learn, YouTube's where you enjoy your nice music, YouTube's where you find that old thing that you haven't heard in forever. It's YouTube, And it's going to suck the day that YouTube becomes under extreme attack, because it might happen. And I just hope that people, find a way to keep this big archive of knowledge up, TikTok and Twitter are so easy to remake. There's literally nothing there. Kiwi Farms is a very bare bones website running off of extremely old Zenforo software. And it's like 3 times or 4 times more complex than Twitter. And X hasn't made Twitter any more complex, other than these BS algorithms that make it literally harder and less enjoyable to spend time there. And TikTok is legitimately just, it was so easy for all the other Facebook and YouTube to recreate short system because it's literally easier than anything, period. And so when that Kevin O'Leary guy buys buys TikTok, he's going to find out very quickly that somebody's going to make a competitor that everybody's going to go to because it's not going to have insane algorithms in it, just like Blue Sky and X. Sorry, Elon, that kind of sucks, but like you got scammed for $40 billion, bro. You got scammed. That's the whole thing, though. That's the Masonic plan, is like, cash out, bro down. I forgot the stage is up there. I haven't watched that South Park episode in a while. It's called Washington Redskins. It's pretty good. Although that season was like the beginning of the end, but it is what it is, They still have a couple of good episodes every once in a while. I haven't seen their recent stuff. I haven't seen their recent last 2 seasons, Although I play the phone game Phone Destroyer because it's way better than Clash of Clans or Clash Clan Royale, whatever. It's the Clash of Clans game where there's towers and you fight, and I played that for a while. It's fun, you get a little easy to control dopamine boost of competing with a real person. So I play the South Park Phone Destroyer game. It's pretty good. So, rentals and insurance companies are on the front lines of forcing people to own nothing and be happy. You may have heard a lot about Hertz hurting people a lot, and you may have experienced insurance companies hurting you at one point, or hurting your friends, or hurting your family, making you cut down that tree that you have a lot of memories with just because they want to, making you do things on your house every couple of years just because they want you to spend money, and that incentivizes super cheap construction that blows down in a strong wind and gets destroyed, like very, very dangerous place where we're moving because of insurance that doesn't want to cover any of the damages that's actually incurred as time goes on. And you see a lot of this in LA. LA just cut a bunch of their firefighters. The geniuses that run LA cut a bunch of money out of the fire department. And guess what? The Fraternal Order of Police got all that. Yay! Okay, congratulations, guys. You kept everybody safe, huh? Nah. And the good cops that have to actually go out in the streets and deal with all this crap don't deserve that. They really don't. I hope I live to see the Fraternal Order of Police be completely and utterly disbanded and cast to the 1,000 winds. Genuinely, seriously. LA is a great warning that money does not make wealth. And also that weed doesn't solve all your problems. However, I am literally, I am 100% when I say that weed's never killed anybody. Weed doesn't cause schizophrenia or psychosis. It just makes you lazy and it stinks. And sometimes you need to be lazy. It's good to control that and be able to, drink your coffee in the morning and maybe have a weed brownie at night to sleep. And then it'll make you sleep hard and get good dreams, and then you'll wake up refreshed, ready to work. But there's also the people who literally smoke it from sun up to sundown, and those people are a problem. Those people who, if they're not like severely disabled, and even if they are disabled, it's not helping you, dude. It's really not making your, there's a very small amount, and I would hate to be on the panel like discussing like where weed should be medicinally, legally, because there's so many angles you can approach that on. But I can see the argument that regular healthy people that smoke weed all day every day are annoying and unproductive, and also it smells. But like, the smell thing is wild to me because I've kind of figured out why certain people hate weed smell so much, is because they can numb their nerves, they can destroy their ears, they can burn their eyes out of their sockets, but they can't, well, unless you have some ammonia, they can't obliterate their noses. And so if they smell weed, that's the one sense that's been like daredevil hyper attuned, and they fly into a rage over it. And then they use their kids as like a shield, even though their kids are like, it's just like any of the other horrible smells in the city. And like, they lie to themselves about the horrible smell of gas, and kids will tell them the truth about the horrible smell of gas. But people associate that with, just like weed smokers associate the weed smell with positive feelings. And that's what I figured was going on there, But literally, saying that weed causes psychosis, Sagar and Jetty, bro, I see you trying to study history more. I see you getting into it, I really appreciate the hell out of that. Please stop it with the weed psychosis bullshit, man. That shit is like 40 years in the past, okay? We have all figured out that that's not true. So, that's a good way to wrap it up. Take care.